Seems tech billionaire Elon Musk could be in trouble with the German government now accusing him of trying to meddle in the country's upcoming elections. In fact, the government has said that Mr. Musk is meddling in the election campaign with repeated endorsements of the far-right party, the Alternative for Germany, AID. And Musk, in an op-ed published in German Daily last week, called the party the last spark of hope for the country, claiming only AID can save Germany. His remarks triggered anger among German politicians, with the country 7 weeks away from the snap federal election. This is not Musk's first controversy surrounding his support for far-right parties in Europe. Earlier this month, Elon Musk met with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, with reports suggesting the Tesla chief could even send donations to Farage's party. The visuals of Farage shaking hands with Musk sent shockwaves across the United Kingdom and received severe backlash. The big question then is, what's driving Elon Musk's push to the right, and is the freedom of speech, or is this election interference? These are important questions that people are asking at this moment. Let's try and discuss this in more details at this moment. We are being joined by Professor Andrew Latham, Professor of Political Science, Nicholas Nugent, British, and we are also being joined, I beg your pardon, by Nicholas Nugent. He's a British journalist, former BBC editor in London. Gentlemen, thank you for speaking to us and giving us your time. Professor, let me understand by asking you, sir, at this moment, these are very serious allegations that the government of Germany and the politicians are putting on Mr. Elon Musk. How is this being seen by the public and being received there by the public? What is the perception?
Well, I think the perception is that he is interfering, although even representatives of the German government have said that he is entitled to freedom of speech. Germany is still a democratic republic. But he has weighed in on Italian politics. He's weighed in on British politics. Obviously, he's very influential in terms of American politics and now German politics. And I think, as a point of departure, I would say that many Germans would agree with his diagnosis of the problem. Germany is overtaxed and overregulated, and there are other reasons for its economic decline, but those are important. But it's his prescription that's problematic, because the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, Alternative for Germany, isn't just about deregulation and lower taxes. It's also about cultural issues relating to migration, and it's also about leaving the European Union, which, as the Brits know, even though they didn't share a currency, was difficult enough. But for Germany to leave the Eurozone and the European Union would be, by all accounts, except for the AfDs, an economic disaster.
Right. Nicholas, there is this big debate whether this is freedom of speech of Mr. Musk or is it actual election interference. He is, after all, a tech billionaire, very influential now with the Trump administration coming in, and has the means, in fact, to try and help the parties or whichever side he deems fit.
Well, indeed, I think you're asking the right questions, especially about freedom of speech and electoral interference. At the moment, he's speaking his mind, and I think it's really not quite the moment to accuse him of electoral interference. He's just stating his opinion. But the risk is that it goes further, and as you've already alluded to the fact that the rumour, it's nothing more than a rumour, that he might fund one of the British political parties. So the whole issue of electoral interference is very much in contention or in discussion at the moment. I mean, let's not forget that 2 countries in Europe are accusing Russia of interfering in their election. That's to say, Georgia and more recently Romania, where the presidential election was cancelled. Might call clandestine interference. It's not very open.
Right.
So now we've got a different sort of alleged interference, whereby a prominent businessman, let's face it, that's what he essentially is expressing his opinion if it were just the fact that he's a prominent businessman, perhaps nobody would be concerned. But he's also a close ally of the incoming United States president. And that's what causes some concern, especially because of Mr. Trump's stated intention to increase tariffs. In other words, he's no great buddy of the European Union, and he sees it essentially as an economic competitor with the United States.
Right.
So if Mr. Musk then states his opinion, it risks seeming like the opinion of the incoming United States government. Little too early to say that,
yes.
But yes, we are wary of interference. In Britain's case, it happened after our election, so we can't make an allegation of interference. It seems to be subsequent to the election. But in Germany's case, it's coming before the election, hence that suggestion and indeed concern.
Let me pick up from what you were saying, in fact, though it's a little too early, Professor Latham, but the fact remains that, Elon Musk is close to Donald Trump. He's part of the incoming administration as well. Will it have an impact, let's say, on Germany-US ties? If the government, the party that he likes, doesn't come to power, will it have the impact on United States and Germany ties?
I think it sort of poisons the well in this sense. If he were simply speaking as a private citizen who's invested massively in Germany, by the way, and therefore that's the hook that he says and it entitles him to have an opinion, that would be one thing. But he's not just a private citizen and an investor and a businessman. He's also, in just a few weeks now, not even a few weeks, an agent of the US government. And whatever signals he's sending now has got to be picked up on the European side, the German side in this case in particular, as Donald Trump and the US administration incoming speaking. And that's why I frame it this way. Elon Musk has every right to comment on British, Italian, German, whatever elections. That doesn't make it the right thing to do given where he is situated now in this political discourse and in this geopolitical reality. And I think he's sending all the wrong signals. One of the big questions underlying all of this is to what extent there is a tension between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because they're sort of on the same page, but not entirely. And there's two massive egos crashing into each other here, and that yet has to be resolved in the context of American politics.
Right, and Nicholas, and Elon Musk is also seen as somebody who is abrasive. His opinions are out there. He doesn't shy away from saying what he wants to. Of course, the kind of resources that he has gives him that privilege as well. But just a word about, so far this push that we are seeing from a lot of these billionaires, and specifically in the case of Mr. Musk, supporting the right-wing movements or the far right sometimes in different countries. It's almost trying to create a brotherhood in every country that they possibly want to influence.
Well, indeed, I think you're slightly anticipating a greater influence than we might see. It's so far only a small number of countries, notably Germany, where he appears to be interfering. But I mean, what we're doing is balancing the right of free speech, which I believe in very strongly, as do most Europeans, I would say, and indeed most Americans, against political interference or interference with the democratic process. We just got to be wary of that. And a third factor is Mr. Musk is essentially a businessman. So to what extent is his stated view a view that supports his principle of free trade or indeed commercial matters? We can't get away from the fact. So Mr. Musk is an interesting character. He's not only a very rich American, but he's a businessman with political leanings, as we're going to see, as Mr. Latham made clear. He is, to some extent, a representative of the incoming administration. So we watch with interest.
Right. In conclusion, Professor Latham, let me ask you this then. It might be limited to Germany, but is there, or, in some case that we are talking about Italy or Britain, is there a fear that, these kind of businessmen, such billionaires going behind or putting their weight even by speaking or writing op-eds or expressing their opinions. For the far-right groups or right-leaning parties, this could, in fact, tilt somewhere the balance as far as elections are concerned. Not just in these countries,
Yes.
but others as well.
The short answer is yes. I think we see that even avowed kind of progressive lefty billionaires, Bezos, people like that, are increasingly being drawn by the gravitational pull of the Trump movement, as it were, into the Trump camp. And we see that in the United States, and I see it in an incipient form across the world. I mean, I can see the Musk-Trump worldview. I can see it reflected in India, the Modi government. I can see it reflected with the Meloni government in Italy. I can see it reflected in Farage's aspiring and potentially actual government in 7 or 8 years. So I think the tectonic plates of global politics are shifting. This is not 1945 and it's not 1991. This is 2024.
Right.
And I think there are some big shifts afoot, and I'm not sure that all of them are really, from my perspective, welcome.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your views here on NDTV World. It's a pleasure speaking to you, but this is a big debate. As our guests were also saying, it's just not one billionaire, in fact, speaking about it. We have seen how in India there have been questions about George Soros in the election interference also being raised vis-a-vis Russia and America. Now, of course, Elon Musk is being accused of the same in Germany as well.